I don't know why anybody would do that to her.
A grieving mother can't answer the question everyone is asking. Why would someone kill toddler Hailey Dunbar Blanchette and her father, Terry Blanchette? Police say they are still looking for evidence to answer why.
Welcome or welcome back, and thanks for being here. I'm Cassie, and this is A Wicked World. The story I have for you today is about a father and daughter who were murdered in the most brutal way by someone no one even thought to look at. And once authorities figured out just who this monster was, they would link him to a third murder as well. This is the story of Terry and Hailey Blanchette. Hailey Lynn Elizabeth Denise Dunbar Blanchette was born on December 31st, 2012, in Taber, Alberta, Canada, to her father, Terry Blanchette, and her mother, Cheyenne Dunbar. She was a sweet and happy little girl who easily made friends. Hailey loved playing at the park, riding on quads with her family, cuddling animals, and playing in the water. She was an only child whom her parents adored, and her father also called her his little princess. The girl's mother and father, who would each describe one another as being great parents, had an on-again and off-again relationship. They had lived together twice, once before Hailey was born and once when she was a few months old. At the beginning of 2015, they had split up for good, and Cheyenne moved to Edmonton while Terry stayed behind in Blairmore, which was about a 5-hour drive. The pair then split custody of Hailey, with the toddler usually spending 2 weeks at a time with each parent. On September 14, 2015, Terry's father, William Blanchett, was traveling from his home in Elkford, British Columbia, to Calgary, Alberta, in order to have some work done on his car. This took him through Blairmore, where his son Terry and his granddaughter Hailey lived, so he decided to stop in and say hello. When William arrived at the home around 10 a.m., he figured that the father and daughter must be inside, because Terry's car was still in the driveway. However, when he knocked on the front door, he received no answer. So he went back to his car and texted Terry, but after receiving no response, he decided to drive to a nearby gas station to fill up his truck and pick up a few scratch tickets. Once he'd done this, he called his son again, but still no answer. So William drove back to Terry's house, this time letting himself in through the unlocked front door. Upon entering the home, William found that it was completely silent. He also noticed that several things had been knocked over and rummaged through, like maybe somebody had broken in. Then the grandfather walked into the bathroom and turned on the light. There, he saw his son lying on the floor, partially covered by a blanket and completely covered in blood. Terry was dead, and there was no sign of Hailey in the home. William immediately contacted emergency services. Once police arrived, they found that Terry had suffered from numerous head injuries, later determined to be about 30. He also had 12 sharp force injuries to his body and a large cut that ran from one side of his neck to the other. Authorities then discovered a large amount of blood on Terry's bed, the bedroom floor, and in the hallway. It looked as if the attack had started while he'd been in bed, and then he was dragged down the hallway to the bathroom. Smears of blood were additionally found on the door leading to Hailey's room, as well as on her baby doll and blankets that were inside of her crib. Police would also discover a set of bloody footprints that was leading away from the home. Officers searched the house and the surrounding area for Hailey, but there was no sign of her. And so, an Amber Alert was issued for the little girl. Come to find out, early that morning around 3:30, Terry's neighbor had heard a noise that had woken him up from sleeping. When he looked outside, he saw a white commercial van in his back alleyway. The neighbor also told authorities that he had heard a child's whimpering, either coming from inside the van or nearby it. It was a whimpering, whining, screaming kind of noise. He described the vehicle he'd seen as a white, newer model van that had a large rear antenna with a flag attached to it. This information was then added to the Amber Alert that had been sent out for Hailey. Now, less than a week prior, on September 9th, there had been another murder in the community. Just minutes away from where Terry had been brutally killed, 69-year-old Hannah Meek had also been murdered inside her house. Someone had broken in, and there were signs of forced entry and struggle. The elderly woman's head had been caved in and her throat had been slit, just like Terry. This left many people in the community feeling very on edge. They worried that there was a burglar and murderer who was targeting homes in the area. However, authorities were quick to dismiss any connection between the crimes. Following the discovery that Hailey was missing, her mother Cheyenne rushed to Terry's home to try to find her daughter. In the meantime, police had secured the scene and were trying to find any clues as to who had done this and where Hailey was now. The next day, on September 15th, authorities would announce during a press conference that they had interviewed a potential suspect in relation to Terry's murder and Hailey's disappearance. However, they didn't give any further information at this time. The public would later find out that a man named Larry Seritzky, who owned a local dry cleaning business called Prestige Cleaners, had called police after he heard about the white van in the Amber Alert. He told them that these vans sounded just like the ones that he used for his business, and he had recently discovered that one of them had been taken without his permission, sometime between September 13th and 14th. The last time this vehicle had been used for the dry cleaning business was on September 11th. After that, it had been parked outside, but Larry later noticed that it was moved from that spot. He also found that there was more mileage put on it. So once he'd contacted the authorities with this information, they told him that they would be right down to his business to speak with him in person. But while he was waiting for officers to arrive, Larry's son, Derek Seritzky, who also worked for the business, walked into the dry cleaners. The 22-year-old seemed a little off to his father, like he was worried and needed to talk to him about something. This gave Larry a terrible feeling in his gut. So he told Derek that police were looking for a missing child and then asked him if he knew anything about it. That's when Derek said to him, "Hailey is in heaven now." Confused, Larry asked more questions, but at that time, Derek became incoherent and started talking in gibberish. When police arrived a few minutes later, they would place him under arrest. Once a search was done of the dry cleaning van, authorities found blood inside. Luminol lit up areas of the driver's seat, steering wheel, window crank, floor, side door, door handle, and there was also a large smear on the van's floor that included a print of a bare foot. Detectives also noticed that there were floor mats missing from the vehicle. At that point, police decided to issue a search warrant for Derek's apartment, which was located in the same building as the dry cleaner. Here, they would find the 2 rolled-up floor mats that were consistent with the ones that were missing from the van. There was also blood discovered on a doorknob, as well as blood droplets in the living room and kitchen. Additionally, they seized latex gloves, clothing, and cowboy boots, all of which would be found to have blood on them. A variety of knives, box cutters, books on murder, and a medical dictionary were taken in as evidence as well. On Derek's coffee table, authorities discovered handwritten graffiti that said, "This is not the end. Death is only the beginning." Even more disturbing was the measuring cup of blood in his kitchen and a notebook with a page that read, "Hannah, sleepers for the dogs." The elderly woman Hannah, who had just been killed a few days prior, owned dogs. Her name had then been crossed out. Underneath it was written Shy, Terry, and the hideous baby, which were all also crossed out. And ironically, underneath what looked to be his hit list, he had written down the times that a particular church was open each day of the week. When police first sat down to speak with Derek, he refused to tell them where Hailey was, denying that he had anything to do with the crimes. He remained evasive with the investigating officer for over an hour, telling him that he couldn't remember anything, that God had made him do it, and that the devil taunted him to do bad things. But after a few hours of interrogation, Derek Seritzky would admit that the day prior he had killed both Terry and Hailey. He confessed that on the night of September 14th, he'd broken into Terry's home, wearing a mask and armed with a crowbar and knife. He found the father asleep in his bed, and he attacked him, eventually slitting his throat and dragging him into the bathroom. Upstairs, Derek grabbed Hailey from her crib, took her out of the home, and put her inside the van.
"She needs to come home. Where is she, buddy?" "Derek, Where is she?
The devil made me turn her into ashes.
Okay. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. It's okay. Was it in the bush where you burnt her? Is that where she died?
Yeah, it was in the bush.
How did you kill her?
I choked her.
Now, there was a camping spot that was owned by Derek's aunt, Carmela Seritzky, that the family called the Ranch. It was a 160-acre property that was near Crow's Nest Pass, about 7 kilometers or 4.5 miles away from Blairmore, where Terry lived. On the morning of the 15th, Carmela's son Shane, Derek's cousin, had been out to the campsite when he noticed that the fire pit was smoldering. Upon closer inspection, he noticed that there were tiny pieces of what looked to be bones. He immediately contacted police, who then went out to the scene, and they were able to recover hundreds of burnt bone fragments from the fire pit. Also discovered was a burnt knife and hatchet. Hailey's DNA was found to be in the grass, on a toy, and in a metal pot sitting nearby. Now, while there was no DNA that was able to be recovered from these bones, it was determined that they did belong to a child between the ages of 2 and 4. So authorities were pretty sure that they did belong to Hailey. Her cause of death was also not able to be determined.
It is my very sad duty tonight to inform you that we have found the body of 2-year-old Hailey Dunbar Blanchette in a rural location near Blairmore, Alberta. The body was located during a police search based on information received by investigators in their efforts to locate Hailey. The location of the discovery has been secured and investigators are now working to process the scene. Hailey's family has been notified and we extend our deepest condolences to the family for their loss of Hailey and also for the loss of her father, Terry. This is a sad day for the investigators, the citizens of Blairmore, and all the Canadians who hoped Hailey would be found and returned unharmed. Our goal now is to complete the investigation into Hailey's death and the death of her father, Terry.
After this evidence was found, Derek would go along with investigators to the campsite. There, he explained and reenacted exactly how he had killed Hailey.
That's on 129th Street?
Yeah.
It's homes or what is this?
I don't know, I just seen the fire pit was there. Yeah, it's...
Okay, so we'll get out, talk about it. I'll get your door and stuff. Here.
Okay.
So where did you take Hailey?
Over here.
Whereabouts? Can you just show me, just take me right there.
This was moved.
This was moved?
This was something else. Where it was.
You don't need to move it, but...
It's right here.
So you had Hailey right here?
Yeah.
Okay, so what did you do?
There, yeah.
What did you do first?
I started stalking the fire pile with books. A whole bunch of books till I got the fire decently going and put some wood on it. Then I choked her over there.
Where? You want to take
Over
me?
there about.
You just take me to the spot?
It was over here.
Okay.
Derek told investigators that he'd strangled Hailey using a shoelace. Once she was dead, he proceeded to dismember her body. Then, unbelievably, he confessed to drinking her blood, as well as eating a piece of her heart before he burned her remains.
Did she suffer?
A little bit.
A little bit?
He told me to save myself on my own. He said I had the deep in the soul searching.
He said killing her would save you?
So he said it's what he did.
How did you choke her?
With his shoelace and his string.
Where did you get the shoelace?
I don't know where I got it from. I just had it in one of the bags.
What did you cut of hers? What part of her did you cut? It's just to understand. It's not to
legs,
judge.
arms,
Tell me about it.
waist.
You cut them off?
I ate a little bit of her heart
You ate a bit of her heart?
to try to strengthen mine.
And how did that make you
I
feel?
drank a bit of her blood to try to strengthen me
And how did that make you feel?
a little bit stronger.
Yeah? Or maybe it gave you the strength to tell the truth today?
It did make me strong.
It did?
For a bit. Just a little bit.
But why? Why had he done this to an innocent little girl and her father? Derek knew the family because, according to him, he dated Hailey's mother, Cheyenne, when Hailey was only a few months old. He said he still had feelings for her. The reason that Derek claimed he killed Terry was because he thought that he had been abusive towards Cheyenne, was a terrible father, and had once given him a dirty look. He would also say that Terry had previously come at him with a bat, and he believed that he was following and stalking him. Derek then told authorities that he had killed Hailey because after seeing pictures of her on social media, she did not look happy in her father's care, and he didn't believe she had a good life. So when he'd broken into Terry's home that night, Derek was still under the assumption that Cheyenne lived there. He had no idea they had broken up and she moved out, meaning that more than likely he was trying to kill her as well. Now, according to Cheyenne, she had never been romantically involved with Derek. Rather, she had a 5-month-long friendship with him around the time that she and Terry had separated when Hailey was just a baby. The two would hang out a few times a week, and the last time she had spoken to him was a few years ago. Apparently, Terry and Derek also knew one another, and it's said that they did not get along, but not much else is known about their relationship.
I learned about it actually on Facebook from my mom, who sent me a picture of my daughter in her father's house.
So when did the police call you?
The police called me I actually called the police, and it was within an hour. And it was heartbreaking knowing that I had no clue what was going on. I had no clue she was missing. I had no clue what happened to her father.
Tell us about Hailey?
She was smart, beautiful, the greatest child ever. She never cried. She was perfect. Absolutely perfect. He called me, he texted me, he sent pictures. I sent pictures. It was always back and forth between us.
Can you think of any reason why this could have happened?
I don't know why anybody would do that to her. I don't know why. I really don't. I don't know.
What kinds of things are you going to miss about her?
I'm going to miss absolutely everything. I'm going to miss her smile, the way she ran around saying mommy, everything.
That's enough.
Derek Seritzky was charged with first-degree murder in relation to Terry and Hailey's deaths. He was also charged with indignity to a human body in relation to Hailey. A few months later, he would be handed an additional charge of murder in relation to 69-year-old Hannah Meek's death. During Derek's interrogation with authorities, he had been asked if he had killed Hannah ahead of killing the father and daughter as practice, and he had said yes. He then admitted that the old woman who lived next door to his grandparents did not go down without a fight, and she had come out swinging. Hannah was also believed to have $90,000 in cash in her home at the time that she was killed. A white van that looked to be the same one from Derek's father's dry cleaning business was captured on surveillance footage that was recorded between September 8th and 9th, around the time that Hannah was killed, at an Esso gas station in Coleman, close by to her house. Now, Derek also had previous criminal convictions in relation to breaking and entering. According to his family, he had prior problems with drugs and alcohol, but they believed up until the murders that he had been turning things around. Then, just days after he was placed under arrest, Derek would have to be rushed to a hospital where he was placed into a medically induced coma. This was after he had attempted to take his own life while in jail. When he came out of that coma a few days later, he was ordered to undergo a 30-day psychiatric assessment to see if he was fit to stand trial. In the end, it was found that he was. So in May of 2017, Derek would go to trial, and the jury would determine that he was guilty on all his charges. He was later sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for 75 years. Just days after Terry and Hailey's deaths on September 19, 2015, motorcycle riders in Calgary organized a ride that ran from Longview to Crow's Nest Pass in memory of the father and daughter. The pub where Terry worked also collected funds in order to build a new playground in honor of Hailey at nearby Blairmore Lions Park. A memorial service was held for Terry and Hailey Blanchette on Friday, October 9, 2015, at the Crow's Nest Consolidated High School in Alberta. They were then buried side by side at Passburg Cemetery in Alberta. Well, thank you for listening to Terry and Hailey's story today. What Derek did to them is absolutely despicable. And for what reason? Because he was obsessed with this little girl's mother for years? It's so strange and seems like such a loose motive. What do you think about this one? Why did Derek really kill Terry and Hailey? So, if you like true crime and you want to hear it from me, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button below. And turn on your notifications too, so you'll know when I upload a new video, which is at least 3 times every single week. Thanks for watching A Wicked World today. Until next time, take care guys. Bye. Thank you to all the patrons of A Wicked World. Now, there's even more of A Wicked World on Patreon, so check it out on patreon.com/awickedworld, or use the Patreon app. You'll have access to exclusive videos each month and more. Any support truly helps to make sure the victims are never forgotten and to highlight the shortcomings of society associated with each case. Do you have a suggestion for a story you'd like to see me cover? If so, send me an email to awickedworldtruecrime@gmail.com.